Hello, my name's Tim Ridgway. I'm part of the fundraising team at Animal Quality UK. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Sean Thomas, the International Director of Investigation at Animal Quality. Most people are unaware of the suffering that takes place in our food system. Millions of animals are raised and killed on intensive factory farms in Britain every year, and yet most of us will never see them. They live in cramped, dark conditions and are often subject to abuse and exploitation. It's the job of investigators like Sean to capture videos and footage of these farms and show the British public what is hidden behind closed doors. Sean has been involved in investigations for over 20 years now. Some of the investigations he's been a part of have been featured in some of the biggest news programmes and newspapers around the world, including the BBC, Sky News, the Daily Mail, The Guardian, the New York Times, and many, many more, and they have been seen by millions of people. Today, I'm going to speak with Sean about what it's like to be an undercover investigator and talk through some of the investigations that Animal Quality has conducted into British factory farms over the last few years. Due to the nature of their role, most investigators need to remain anonymous, so this really is a rare glimpse into their world and the world of farmed animals. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us, Sean.
Thank you, Tim.
Before we begin, let's take a look at one of the investigations that Animal Quality has conducted into UK farms in the last few years. The following clip comes from a 2019 investigation into a British pig farm. Please be aware that the following clip contains scenes that some viewers may find upsetting.
It was actually 7.5 years ago. Someone sent me an undercover video of actually a pig farm. And I was already vegetarian at the time, so it's not like I had been eating pork. But I was so devastated by it, and it sort of led me down this YouTube rabbit hole of like watching videos of dairy farms and egg farms. And so I sent it to everyone that I could. And you know, even though I've seen a lot of that kind of footage, I really wanted to see it for myself and hopefully make something that could impact other people to want to change their minds as well. Nothing really prepares you for seeing it in person. You know, it's really just, it's so much more awful than you could even imagine.
These are the gestation crates. These pigs that are now pregnant will spend their entire lives in this barn. They will never feel fresh air or see the light of the sun. After years in this farm, giving birth time and time again, they will be put on a truck and sent to slaughter.
So Sean, could you describe some of the practices that we've just seen there and some of the practices that you come across when investigating UK farms?
Yes, and I think the first thing that we must realize with all factory farmed pigs is that they are kept in confinement. And this is one of the greatest issues that, that animals raised for food face. The mother pigs that we see in the video give birth inside a crate that restricts their movement so much that they can't even turn around and nuzzle their babies after they're born. And we can all just imagine the stress that that would cause being in this industrial setting, just having given birth and not even being able to take care and nurse and properly care for the piglets that, that are just been born of you. So, as we see this, this is very standardized, and it's happening to pigs all across the UK. And being able to bring the public into this setting and have them see these moments is really what our responsibility as investigators is.
After we release an investigation, a common question that we get from supporters is, how typical are these practices of UK farming? Could you detail for us how typical these practices are and how we know that?
Many of the cruelest practices that we film and document during investigations are completely standard. Our Moy Park investigation is a great example. This is one of the largest companies that raises chickens for the UK market. And what we saw are many standardized practices that result in the immeasurable suffering in the birds that are inside the farms. We saw the mortality rates of the chickens on the Moy Park farms be as high as 500 per day in each shed. And that's just from being inside the shed. It's not because they're being killed, they're being tortured in any other way other than the confinement inside these unnatural systems.
We are also asked sometimes whether our investigations will lead to prosecutions. In some cases they do, and in 2018, our investigation into a UK pig farm, Fir Tree Pig Farm, led to the prosecution of 2 men for cruelty to farmed animals. Often though, our investigations show practices which are legal but still cause immense suffering to animals. Can you describe some of the practices that we see which are legal?
Well, and besides the confinement that most of the animals raised for food in the UK experience, and that might be a mother pig who's held in a farrowing cage while she gives birth and is unable to move more than standing up and lying down, or the piglets that have their tails cut off, that have their teeth ground down, that might be killed by having their skulls crushed on the concrete floor by workers. All of these things are part of the production cycle for animals. And even though they might be visually distressing for the public to see, oftentimes they are completely legal. And what our work as investigators revolves around is bringing these things to light. And it might be the overt cruelty that we've seen in investigations of workers beating animals and causing that suffering that the public can really respond to. But also our goal is to show that there is suffering in these standardized practices. We can all identify with the fact that having an appendage cut off without painkillers would be horribly painful. And so even though it's not illegal, it doesn't mean that it doesn't cause suffering. And so if our footage and documentation can bring about changes within how the law sees animals in the UK, that can be one of our greater accomplishments.
Most people will never see a factory farm firsthand. What's it like to see it in person, right there in front of your eyes? And is there anything that's difficult to convey about investigations through images and footage alone?
So the first time that I witnessed animals in an industrial setting was in 1997, when I was working at a large poultry slaughterhouse. And when you walk inside for the first time, the smell of blood, of burning feathers just hits you and surrounds you. And then walking into the room where we were meant to be hanging birds for slaughter and seeing the intensity of how many animals are being killed every minute. In the US, the slaughterhouse was killing 135 birds per minute. Workers are furiously hanging birds, and you just see this enormous amount of suffering in front of you. Each chicken that is tumbling out of their crate onto the line is looking around, is bewildered, is struggling to stand up before another one is tumbling across them, and workers are grabbing them and slamming them into the shackles. Or on the first pig farm that I walked into, again, the smell, the intensity of the life that you are experiencing and surrounded by. And then the first thing that we witnessed on the pig farm was the manager picking up a small piglet that was deemed not viable for production, and slamming their head into the concrete floor and tossing them into the waste pile. And so this suffering and this intensity of cruelty is so commonplace. You see that it's a culture that workers are expected to embrace, that animals are numbers, and it's part of a production cycle. And farms must maximize that production cycle. And so the consideration for any individual animal can never be given within that system.
For anyone who sees our investigations, it can be incredibly difficult to watch and see the suffering that animals endure. And yet you've continued to expose yourself to that. How do you continue when you see such distressing things?
I think that after those first very intense experiences in slaughterhouses and on factory farms, I would feel very sad. I remember working on a pig farm and leaving and being very distraught after witnessing a mother pig being beaten to death in front of all of the workers there by the farm manager, and thinking, you know, maybe someone will be fired, but the laws are such that they might either get a small fine or not face any repercussions for this horrible cruelty, and feeling very despondent about it. But after a couple of days and going back and documenting more, I realized that this is, you know, my own feeling, but what about all of those thousands of animals that are on that farm? And what about the millions more and the billions around the world? They have no ability to cry out for help into the public sphere. So we are that conduit. It's our responsibility, once you have seen it and once you realize that you have the ability to bring these issues to light, that it's very selfish to just stay in your own sadness about it and inaction, that you have to be compelled to document and keep documenting and making sure that there is action on behalf of these animals. The animals that we're filming will probably never be rescued or saved, but what we are working for is a generation beyond that, where there are fewer and fewer and fewer of these animals in these horrible conditions.
Investigative work takes many different forms and is conducted on a range of issues. You and other animal quality investigators have chosen this issue, though, of farmed animals. Why this issue?
I was going to be a biologist and studying primates, and those are the animals that I was really attached to and felt fascinated by. But then when I started thinking, well, what animals do I want to help? And if I want to help animals, I should think about, what are the animals that people think about the least? What are the animals that are so integrated into our society that they are almost beyond consideration? And then I started thinking about chickens, about pigs, about cows that we pass everywhere. They're all around us. In the supermarket, what you are looking at are dead animals. And so once I had that kind of thought process, it was kind of an epiphany. I can start helping animals right now. I began going around to the farms that were near my community and filming, following trucks with pigs and filming those just with a handy cam leaning out my car window. And once you begin seeing these things all around you, you realize that the numbers of animals raised for food are just enormous. And the fact that most of the public aren't giving them the same consideration that they would to a dog that they might see on the street. They would never think it would be okay if they were walking their dog and someone came up behind them and grabbed their dog and cut off their tail. It would be something that would be prosecuted as animal cruelty immediately. But down the road, they might be passing a farm where 1,000 piglets that month had their tails cut off. So It's something that once you understand that you want to end suffering, you then have to understand that where is it occurring the most? And that's with animals on factory farms.
Animal Equality has released some incredibly powerful investigations over the last few years, and we've also seen lots of support from people all over the country. What does it mean to you personally when you see so many people giving you support?
It really is an amazing feeling. Much of the life of an investigator is one in isolation. When I can tell someone that, oh, you know what, we've reached our goal this year for being funded. We've received a special gift to support our work for fish, for hens, for pigs. It's incredibly uplifting. It means that our work is resonating with people. For that to resonate with the investigators is very important, and to keep them going in the field and have them knowing that they have, you know, one more month that they can rely on to stay out in the field to capture something that they've seen that's very important, or that we can dedicate you know, more funds to getting more people out into the field. You know, if we have one person who is responsible for a country, it can be incredibly draining for them. If we can add another person to support them in the field, it really, really aids in the ability of the organization to keep exposing these issues. So, you know, even sharing on social media or donating or sending in an email of support, or saying that you will write your MP and urge them to watch an investigation, or what are they doing about it, all of those things resonate with the people in the field, because you know, the isolation and the disconnect from the positive messaging can just really wear on people. And so those small moments of appreciation go a long way.
So where do we go from here? How do we protect farmed animals, and what role do investigations play?
The more we maintain a presence in the public, the more we maintain a presence on the doorstep of regulators, of law enforcement, the more seriously they take us. And that's always the attitude that we've had as an investigative department and as an organization, that we are dedicated to reducing the suffering of animals. And so we are constantly evaluating where we can make the most impact, and where the next investigation will be, whether it is to illuminate a very specific process, or whether it is to show a brand new industry to the public. But we are expanding, and we are thinking of ways in which we can engage the public in our investigations to really have people see something and then make that change. And that's, I think, the most important thing that we have to realize, is that the investigative material is not created so that people can feel depressed about the suffering of animals. It's created so people can feel empowered on how to change their own lives, the lives of people around them, or demand that there is more action from the government on restricting the ability of these huge companies to cause suffering in the capacity that they do right now. So we'll continue, and we'll continue to do more investigations, and that really relies on all of the public's support for our work.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Sean, and thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks again to Sean for taking the time to speak with us today. If you would like to support any of our brave investigators, then please click on the link in the description below the video. And remember, all donations are currently being matched, so your gift will have twice the impact for farmed animals. Thank you.